meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First up is the approval of the Finance Committee meeting minutes for July. Anybody like to make a motion? If you're making a motion, you're all on mute. I can make the motion if someone will second me. I'll make a motion to pass the meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Great. Motion has been seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say right. Any abstentions? Okay. Committee meetings are passed. Looks like we have a few briefing items this morning. Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the quarterly internal audit update.
Great, thank you, Heidi. Behind tab 2, you will find the quarterly internal audit update. Items 1 and 2 are both findings from the Human Resources audit completed in December of 2017. Item 1 finding was a lack of succession planning for key roles. The current status of this is in the design phase and will be completed by the end of the fourth quarter this year. Item 2 finding was that the bargaining unit employees do not have key company policies. The current status is that the bargaining unit handbooks will be completed by December 31st. These are both the same as previously reported. Item 3 is a finding from the storeroom audit completed in November of 2018. The audit found that badge access to the storeroom was not limited to employees with a business purpose. Current status is that procedures and forms are being finalized and expected to be completed by the end of Q4. This was pushed back from Q2 completion due to COVID-19. Item 4 and 5 are both findings from the vendor management audit completed in April of 2019. Item 4 finding was that there was no documentation of monitoring activities performed by SORTA to ensure the contract terms and responsibilities are being met by vendors. And related to this item, item 5 finding is that there is no remediation process for non-compliant vendors. The current status is that procedures are developed as part of SORTA's process improvement project to be completed in Q1 of 2021. This was also pushed back due to the due to COVID-19. Item 6 is a finding from the attendance and leave policies audit completed in June of 2019. The finding was that the bulk pullers do not have an existing attendance policy. HR and operations are working on creating a bulk puller attendance policy to be completed by the end of Q4 2020. This is the same timeline as previously reported. Item 7 is a finding from the past sales review completed in January of 2020. The finding was that there was no secondary approval process for refunds. The approval policy has been added to the operating procedures, so this item is now considered remediated and closed. Items 8 through 15 are all findings from the IT infrastructure and vulnerability audit completed in March of this year. Item 8 finding was that there were multiple network vulnerabilities identified. The current status is that an IT service management tool has been procured and we are on track to deploy the tool this year with scanning to begin in 2021. Item 9 finding was that SORTA has some risky network protocols due to outdated applications. The current status is that these protocols are being updated through application upgrades and are on track to be completed by the end of this year. Item 10 finding was around SSL sessions and strength, and that SORTA had some weak encryption algorithms. The current status is that these encryption methods are removed through multiple project and application upgrades as well. Item 11 finding was that SORTA continues to use systems that are end-of-life systems, outdated Windows Server 2003 and 2008, as well as Windows 7 operating systems. These are no longer supported by the vendor. Current status is that the servers and Windows 7 upgrades will be completed by Q1 of 2021. 50% of our systems have been upgraded already to Windows 10. Item 12 finding was that during external scans, hosts were found to have an SNMP community string set to public and should be set to something other than public. Current status is that the IT service management system tool has been procured and we are on track to upgrade and reconfigure to a secure model environment to be complete in 2021. Item 13 finding was that the documentation in the IT department was limited. Current status is that as systems are upgraded, better documentation will be developed and maintained. And again, the IT service management tool is part of this remedy as well. Item 14 finding was that SORTA does not have a system in place to effectively manage the network environment or conduct log aggregation. And item 15 was that we do not have a ticket system to track network-related issues. Both of these items will also be cured with the IT service management tool that's been procured and will be deployed in 2021. That is the update on the audit findings. Any questions on those?
Hi, this is Mary. I'm driving, so I hope it sounds okay. I'm in the hills of South Carolina.
Hey, Mary.
I'm curious. Today I see things differently through all the different financial issues that we're all dealing with. But I'm curious if on these audits, which I think are imperative, and I love that we do them and that we have this update each time, have we ever put together to align with the audit what the cost of being compliant is with these different steps, and if we're above or below budget on the compliance issues?
Mary, we haven't done it per item, but things like the IT audit,
Right.
it's about security, and I don't know that you could put a cost on our systems not being secure. So it is part of the plan to update our systems, not just for security, but we believe the newer systems will also bring benefit to the organization because of the advancement in the products that are out there today. So it is part of we're putting together our strategic plan for the next 5 years. It is part of our strategic plan, which will be costed and put in our future budgets. So you will be seeing that, a lot of that, in the budget process for this year and years moving forward, as well as when we sit down with the board and go through our strategic plan.
Thank you, Daryl. And I think I'm totally aligned with your priorities of security and the importance of that. But my mindset, what I'm thinking is if we say to the John public who doesn't understand any of the details of what our costs are and why we do what we do, is that we do these audits to be accountable to the taxpayers, to make sure that everything is safe and secure, and we have to invest this much money to make sure those things happen. So that we would have that information in our toolbox, so to speak, to have those points so that they're aware that these are things that are part of operational that helps make your life easier and the buses run better. Just a thought.
Yeah, you're correct. And when we make comments like we have servers running on Windows 2003, it's something
They don't understand what that means. They have no idea what that means.
That means we have servers running on software that was created in 2003. And it's 2020 right now, so that software is 17 years old and no longer supported. We have no choice. We have to.
No, I agree. I'm 100% in agreement with you, Daryl.
Yeah, thank you.
Mary, just to reiterate on that a little bit, I think what you're looking for is as we implement these changes, are you looking to see the cost of what those changes were?
Yeah, it's kind of like the value fees and benefits. These are the problems. We have to invest this much money to update it so that you've got these benefits and these safety protocol. It's not just about bus fares and how many rides.
No, that's a great recommendation, and I think that's something we may not be able to track every cost, depending upon what the audit finding is. Some costs may be minimal, but or the benefits of them too. So I think that's a great recommendation, and we'll be able to start tracking what we can on these.
And she wants to make sure that we explain to the board the return on the investments that we're making, and we'd be happy to do that, Ms. Miller.
Are there opportunities to use any of the PPP funds for some of these upgrades? Because they're operational?
Yes.
Have you guys budgeted any of that for these upgrades, or is just available to you?
We are beginning our budget for 2021 right now. So as our budget season progresses, you all will see all the things that we're putting in the budget for next year.
Okay, any other questions around the audit update? Okay, next up, the quarterly fuel hedging report. Michelle?
Great, thank you, Heidi. Behind tab 3, you will find the diesel fuel hedging report as of June 30th. Year to date, the fuel purchase had a cost of $1,431,675 with an average cost per gallon of $1.44. Hedging gains and losses is a loss of $868,953.87 per gallon, with a net fuel cost of $2,300,628, an average cost per gallon of $2.31. Our budget was at a cost of $2,693,098 and an average cost of $2.01 per gallon. We are favorable year to date by $392,470 or 14.6%. If you look at our future hedges, you will see that 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 hedges have been put in place. And we currently have an unrealized loss of $1,894,322. Our hedging policy is from 0 to 24 months. We are currently 97% hedged. And 25 to 36 months, we are currently 32% hedged. So we are under policy within the 25 to 36 months and still slightly over policy for the 0 to 24 months. Are there any questions on the fuel hedging report?
I assume that this just continues to be COVID-related kind of challenges around fuel hedging.
Correct. There's some COVID-related also. We set our budgeted gallons at the beginning of each year. So as we get into next year and we're rolling out the Reinventing Metro plan, our gallons will be much higher due to the increased service. This will naturally just go back into line.
Michelle, can you help me understand the future hedges just from my personal knowledge?
Sure. Do you have a specific question about them or how we manage them?
How do we come up with the projected percent there?
Sure. So each year when we're going through our budget process, we determine how many gallons of fuel we expect to use based on the miles and hours that we'll be driving, and we provide those numbers to our fuel hedging advisor, who then puts out purchases options for us to be able to hedge our fuel purchases.
So looking at 2023, Reinventing Metro is going to have more and robust programs. Wouldn't that be a larger number or no?
Correct. That's all that we currently hedge so far to date. But yes, it will be a much larger, robust number. And as we go through the budget process this year, we'll be updating those fuel gallons to our advisor, who will continue to put on the hedges, maintaining the same policy. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, in theory.
We also have a policy about how far we hedge each year, and it's a board policy that gives us approval to hedge out years.
And that's the 0 to 24 and 25 to 36 months, right?
Correct.
and we're over on one and under on the other.
The reason we're over on one is because of COVID this year. We've run less miles and hours than we had budgeted for because of COVID and the reduced service earlier in the year.
Any other questions around fuel hedging? Okay. Moving on to the financial reports for July 31st. Michelle.
Okay. Behind tab 4, you will find the financial reports for the month ending July 31st. Some good news. We received the additional transit funds, helped offset all the COVID-related revenue losses, and we received the $34 million from the CARES Act in July. Some of the challenges we continue to face are that advertising revenue will continue to be unfavorable to budget until the bench and shelter advertising program recovers from the downturn caused by COVID. Full service resumed at the end of June, so favorability from wages, benefits, and parts expenses is no longer anticipated to help offset revenue loss due to COVID-19. And CPS's decision to delay in-person classes until September 28th is estimated to have a $1.2 million impact to our contract revenue for August and September combined.
Hey, Michelle, have you already applied $34 million from CARES to any part of our operations?
We'll be going through that here right now, and yes, we have. We previously applied just over $2 million before July, and in the month of July, we have now applied $6,276,000. Yes, $6,276,000. So looking at the July financials, total revenue was $8 million, which was unfavorable to budget by $158,000 or 1.9%. Our total expenses of $8.5 million was favorable to budget by $93,000 or 1.1%. So the deficit for the month before using any CARES funds to balance was $486,000. Funds from the CARES Act of $4,070,000 were used to balance the operating results in July and to replenish our reserves in prior year surplus that were used to balance the operating results before we received the CARES Act funds. Total operating results before balancing with available funds were unfavorable by $65,000 or 15.4% per month and unfavorable $3,329,000 or 113% year to date. Some of the most significant factors driving the results for July was fare revenue was unfavorable to budget by $676,000 or 47%. Non-transportation revenue was unfavorable to budget by $106,000 or 61%, primarily due to the investment income and advertising income. Other contract revenue was unfavorable to budget by $54,000 or 32%, primarily due to the Butler County route being temporarily suspended at the request of Butler County due to low ridership. The transit fund was favorable to budget by $681,000 or 13.4% as a result of the change in the city funding request for the start of their fiscal year, which began in July. And our parts and supplies were favorable by $40,000 or 7.7%, primarily due to lower than anticipated revenue vehicle parts. Any questions on the financials? As you'll see, we continue to have impact on our results from COVID-related expenses and lost revenue. So year to date, for the 5-month period of March to July, we have had an impact of just under $5 million due to COVID-related expenses and lost revenue.
Did the hero pay get executed?
Yes, it did. It was actually paid in June.
Oh, perfect.
Any other questions around the financials? I really appreciate you all adding the line around the CARES Act so that we can understand what's being pulled from there. That's really helpful. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
I think you can on to we'll move on to our action items. The first one is the investment of funds report for July.
Thank you, Heidi. Behind tab 5, you'll find the investment of funds report for the month ending July 31st, 2020. As of July 31st, SORTA's cash and investment balance was $41,047,336, yielding a return of 37 basis points, and an average days of maturity of 2 days. Majority of our investment funds are now being held in STAR Ohio, which is our money market type of account. In this current low interest rate environment, STAR is yielding a higher rate than other permitted investment options such as commercial paper, CDs, and treasuries. The investment income for the month of June was $8,609 and $135,989 year to date. The increase in cash from June to July of $32,577,935 was due mostly to all of the CARES funds were received in July, which was partially offset by benefit funding and decreased fair revenue. That is the investment of funds report for the month of July. Any questions?
So exciting. There's a lot of sarcasm in that.
Any other questions or comments around the investment funds report? Okay. I would like to make a motion to pass the investment of funds report for July.
Second.
Great. It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say right. Any abstentions? Okay. Moving on to our next action item, which is the approval of the agreement with Cincinnati State. Dave, welcome.
Good morning. This is Carla, and I'm actually going to do this presentation. Hello.
Sorry, Carlin.
No problem. So the staff recommends that the SORTA board approve the 10th Amendment, extending the terms of the agreement between SORTA and Cincinnati State Technical Community and Technical College. The estimated contract value for August 26, 2020 to August 21st, 2021 is $31,250. Since November 2010, SORTA and Cincinnati State have participated in an agreement whereby Cincinnati State subsidizes discount rides for students, and each year the agreement has been modified to extend the term for an additional academic year. The current agreement does expire on August 22nd of 2020. The new term of the agreement is August 26, 2020 to August 21st, 2021, pending SORTA board approval as well as Cincinnati State board approval. Cincinnati State's board meets on August 25th. The cost of the contract has decreased from $62,500 to $31,250 due to COVID and the reduction of classes which will be occurring on campus this year. Only 30% of their classes will be on campus, while 70% of their classes will be virtual. Are there any questions?
And that is a decision Cincinnati State has made for the entire school year? Or just the first,
It will be August 26, 2020 to August 21st, 2021. That would be the academic year.
Okay. It's helpful to understand the COVID impact, so thank you for including that line. Since it literally cut this contract in half.
That is correct.
Any questions? Okay. I would like to make a motion to approve the agreement with Cincinnati State.
Second.
Great. It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say right. Any abstentions? Okay, that has passed. And Chanel, I'd like to put that on the consent agenda for the board meeting. Will do. Thank you. Any other thing before we adjourn?
Quick question as we head into third quarter of the year and the sales tax. Do we have any projections for what that'll look like, Daryl or Michelle? Just rough projections from the county on what they anticipate?
We've got some projections from Hamilton County, but the actuals are now starting to come in. I mean, we've got projections from University of Cincinnati, and the actuals are now starting to come in. So next month, we'll be doing a whole review of the Reinventing Metro Plan. We'll be talking about what the sales tax looks like. Because sales tax are 3 months behind, it's relatively early in the process to really understand the full impact. So we'll be doing a whole briefing item on that next month, if that's okay, Mr. Andrew.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you for asking that question, and thanks, Daryl, for taking care of that. I look forward to hearing about it. Anything else before we adjourn? Okay. I think we are good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Janelle, should we stay on for the policy?
Yes, Ms. Quinn. We have 2 minutes until the policy committee starts, so if we just hold tight for 2 minutes.
No problem.
Hey Chanel,
Yes.
what is the phone-in dial-in for the policy meeting?
There is, I don't believe there's a dial-in, it's just a link, and you use your computer speaker. We haven't used the link since the first meeting. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the dial-in number since the first meeting.
Do we have a phone-in for the planning operations?
No, it's just the GoToMeeting link. If you Pete, I'm going to send you an email, but Ms. Gwen, if you would like to get started with the policy committee, you may do so.
Thank you, Chanel, and everyone that's on the virtual. Let's start out with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, I have the minutes before me, very sparsely. The minutes I did to them. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I will make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposing? Thank you. All right, I have no briefing items, so we'll just go right into our charter service standard of operation procedure.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So in our last meeting, there were 3 scenarios or circumstances that I was asked to take a look at: community requests, disasters, and curfews. So for community requests, and since we're a federal grant recipient and constrained by regulations, I started with our charter service procedure, which is administered by Matt Norman in the planning department. We reviewed it, did some updates to it. It should actually be in your packet that you can also take a look at it if you care to. Then the next thing I did is I worked with Mike Wild, who's our point of contact for emergency management, and we looked at how our buses may be used in a disaster. And then the last thing we took a look at was curfews. So the next few minutes, Matt's going to cover the charter service procedure, and then we're going to turn over to Mike, and he's going to cover disasters and curfews. So gentlemen, take it away.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about our charter service SOP. I'll just go real briefly over the process that we have in place and have had in place over the years. So in 2008, the FTA published what's known as the Charter Service Final Rule. That's the rule that provides the guidelines and conditions under which agencies such as SORTA can operate service outside of what's regularly scheduled. That includes fixed route and access service as well. And because we are a recipient of federal funding, we are prohibited from operating charter bus service unless it falls within 2 categories. Those are exemptions and exceptions. And again, just real brief, exemptions in general are Metro employees or SORTA employees and officials using our rolling stock for transit-related oversight activities, such as inspections. We also are allowed to use them for emergency preparedness planning, and also responding to emergencies declared by the president, the governor, or the mayor. Exceptions, on the other hand, are things that are related to transporting government officials for official government business that may not be transit related. Those are allowed, but must be reported to the FTA. And then our service planning and scheduling department, as TJ mentioned, administers our program here just to make sure that any requests fall into one of those 2 categories. We also follow up with any bus orders or any approved requests to make sure that we capture the accurate information and report it to the FTA in accordance with those rules. And again, this process has been in place for many years, even before my time. And I'll turn it over to Mike Weil to talk about the disasters.
Good morning, everybody. I wanted to shed a little light on disasters. In the event of an emergency, such as natural disaster or civil unrest, the Hamilton County MA will assemble first responders at the Regional Operations Center through the duration of the event. That's the ROC. So the ROC is activated also during large-scale events, but in advance for the planning and scheduling of the events, such as Fly Big and Riverfest, and larger scale events such as those. Currently, there's no existing MOU between SORTA and the Emergency Management Agency. However, when called upon back in 2008 during the windstorm, SORTA sent a liaison, that was myself, and someone from communications, up to the ROC. And we stayed up there during the duration of the event. That went on for 3 or 4 days. We rotated folks in and out. During the activation, we worked together, prioritizing activities to help serve the public, specifically for the persons with disabilities that needed transportation. They helped us and vice versa. They cleared routes for us. There were so many trees and power lines down back then. It worked out very well. Since then, we've only really assisted with major events to transport officers to different locations. However, we are not necessarily the first call when buses are needed. The Hamilton County Emergency Management Agency also has a relationship with First Student. According to the EMA, it's because they have an abundance of equipment that is only used a couple hours a day, twice a day, and most of the buses sit all summer long when school is out. Curfews is another area that we need to manage, and managing service during a curfew is generally a transportation function. We generally keep operating during a curfew to get people to and from work, unless otherwise ordered to stop service in a particular jurisdiction. Curfews can impact one area of service or many, and may be treated just like a detour if we need to stay out of a particular area for a period of time. Does anybody have any questions for me regarding emergencies?
I just want to make sure that during even the charter and the emergency, we're using our own staff. Is that correct?
Yes, in fact, it was a point I wanted to bring up with EMA when we spoke. I spoke with Nick Crosley, he's the director up there. And there's never a time where they would ever commandeer any of our equipment. It would always be our own people driving our coaches, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Alrighty.
Ms. Robinson, we'll put all of these procedures in place unless you have any objections to them.
I'm just curious, our insurance liability covers if there's anything that happens or any event or activity that happens because we were called into action. So we do have insurance that cover us when we are responding in a disaster or working outside of the purviews of our ordinary route.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Are we going to talk more about the curfews?
I want to say, just want to add a couple of things talking about the curfew. You know, we have an existing continuity of operations plan, and what Mike and I talked about, maybe adding just a small section, just a couple sentences in there about curfews and how we operate. But really, as Mike alluded to, it's really a transit operations procedure. And I'm working with them right now anyway. I'm updating procedures. So I'm going to make sure that's added into the emergency operations plan for transit ops.
One thing I'll add is if at any time during a curfew we feel our employees are at risk, we will shut the system down because the last thing we want is for any of our employees to get hurt during a curfew, depending on what the scenario is.
Does that have, how is that translated in our negotiations in terms of working during these unique times?
I don't believe that's actually in our CBA. Damn it. I don't believe it's actually in our CBA. It's something that we can look towards to maybe include it in a policy, not necessarily in the CBA. But again, during the curfew, we normally run during curfews unless we feel that our employees are at risk, and at any point in time that we feel our employees are at risk, we'll make a different decision.
comments or questions or responses? Is there any additional information we will need to have before we formulate these policies to be presented to the full board?
Well, no, ma'am, these are procedures, internal procedures. You have a copy of them. Public service procedure, which you have a copy of, and the special services procedure that we presented a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, okay.
SOPs go.
So you would put them all as addendums or to our current policies?
Well, I mean, the charter service procedures has been a procedure for as long as I can remember, so there's really no policy that we really need to put to that.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. I mean, we were panicking at the beginning, so now I guess we're all okay. We're all okay. This committee has done its job.
We appreciate the board asking the hard questions and keeping us on our toes, and we'll make sure that we service the community to the best of our ability. Ms. Robinson, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you all, and glad to see TJ is back in the saddle again. Those members that are on, thank you so much for your support and cooperation in resolving or bringing our task forward. And thank you, staff, for your work and diligence in getting this done. So I would assume that at our next board meeting, we will have a presentation as to the status of this committee. Nothing more. Motion to adjourn. I don't hear anybody. Maybe I'm the only one on.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Heidi.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this meeting is adjourned, and thank you very much.
Thank you.